All right, today we are diving deep into the world of crisis management. We're talking about that high stakes game where one tiny misstep can literally cost billions. But a really brilliant response, well, that can turn a total disaster into a huge win. But let's just start with a really basic question. I mean, we talk about reputation all the time, right? But can you actually put a number on it? Is it just some, soft, fuzzy idea? Or is it a hard asset, something you could actually find on a balance sheet? Well, the answer is a little over $7 trillion. No, seriously, that's not a typo. This is the new reality we're all living in, a world where what people think about you has a massive, and I mean massive, financial value. So, according to this landmark study by the communications firm Burson, that staggering number is the estimated value of the global reputation economy. We've officially moved past reputation being just an abstract concept. It is, for all intents and purposes, a new asset class. Okay, so here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we're going to unpack that $7 trillion number. Then we'll zoom way in to the first critical hour of a crisis. After that, we'll look at the universal playbook, figure out how to turn a nightmare into a genuine opportunity, and finally, we'll talk about how you build this asset for the long haul. All right, let's get right into it. What exactly is this new asset, and how in the world do you measure it? It's called reputation capital. And the easiest way to think about it is like this. It's the direct financial bonus that a strong reputation gives to a company's bottom line. It's the literal bridge between what the public thinks about you and how much your stock is worth. Now, what's so fascinating is how you can actually break this down. Reputation isn't just one big, vague thing. The biggest drivers, by far, are innovation and the quality of your product. Together, they make up half of it. But look, things like governance and your workplace culture, they're right behind. These are the actual levers companies can pull to build their value. And this chart just shows you the difference it makes. The best companies, they don't just do one thing well. They're dominant across the board. The gap between the leaders and the laggards is just huge, especially in things like innovation, product, and governance. That right there, that's a massive defensible competitive advantage. But here's the thing about that advantage. It's at its most fragile when things go wrong. So let's shift gears and talk about a crisis. Because when a crisis hits, all that reputation capital you've worked so hard to build is suddenly on the line, and the clock starts ticking. Fast. In the PR world, this is called the golden hour. They actually borrowed that term from emergency medicine, and honestly, the stakes are just as high. What a company does, or maybe more importantly, what it fails to do in this first window, has a huge impact on whether it bounces back or just spirals out of control. So what does a good first hour actually look like? Well, the Public Relations Society of America lays out a pretty clear plan. First, make sure everyone is safe. Obvious, but critical. Second, set up a command center. Third, get a holding statement ready. And this fourth one is absolutely crucial. Talk to your own employees and board before you say anything to the public. Your team should be your first line of defense, not the last to know. You never ever want them finding out about a company crisis from the news. That's how you lose trust internally and start springing leaks. Okay, so you've made it through that first hour. What now? What are the universal rules for the days that follow? What really separates the brands that recover from the ones that become, well, cautionary tales? The most common mistake is just pure panic. As Coltrane Curtis points out in Forbes, that first instinct is often an emotional, unplanned reaction. But lashing out or firing off a tweet without a plan, that's just adding fuel to the fire. The first rule of crisis management is to turn off the fan, not feed it. The right approach, as Kim Miller explains so well, starts with empathy. Instead of getting defensive, the best leaders take a breath and try to see the crisis from their customer's perspective. It's about doing what's right, because at the end of the day, authenticity is always going to be defensive spin. Always. So the whole playbook really just boils down to this fundamental choice you see here. On one side, you have the path to recovery. You take responsibility, you're transparent, and you act. On the other side, you've got the path to ruin, silence, denial, and picking fights in public. It's pretty simple, really. One path builds trust, the other completely destroys it. And this is a really crucial point. A crisis isn't just an end point. It's a crossroads. It forces you to make a choice. You can either let it define you, or you can use it to redefine yourself on your own terms. And the path you take hinges entirely on the answer to one very simple question. Is the negative stuff people are saying true, or is it false?
See, your response isn't about just damage control. It's a strategic decision based on the facts on the ground.
This table from Influwise lays out the two different strategies perfectly. If the criticism is on point, you own it. You acknowledge the facts, you apologize, and you announce real structural changes to make sure it never happens again. But if it's false, your strategy is the complete opposite. You release a factual rebuttal, you share your proof, and you demand corrections. Two totally different playbooks. And here is where it gets really interesting. A crisis, for better or worse, gives you the public's full attention. So instead of just trying to bury the issue, smart companies reframe it. Like if you're getting criticized on sustainability, you can launch a huge new green initiative that tackles the problem head on. Or you can even use humor. Remember when KFC in the UK literally ran out of chicken? They took out full-page ads that just said FCK. It showed humility, and people loved it. The point is, you can use that spotlight to show people what you really stand for. Okay, so let's tie this all together. Why does mastering this crisis playbook and proactively managing your reputation matter so much in the long run? Well, it all comes back to the money. That same Burson study found that companies with strong reputations generate what they call a reputation return, an average of almost 5% in extra shareholder value, totally separate from their normal financial performance. It's a direct, measurable return on trust. And this fundamentally changes how we need to think about reputation. For decades, it's been treated like a defensive tool, something you only worry about when things go sideways. But in this new reputation economy, that is just not enough. Reputation is an offensive strategy. It's a competitive advantage that has to be actively built, managed, and invested in every single day, just like any other critical part of your business. So I'll leave you with this to think about. Consider the companies you buy from, the services you use, all the brands you let into your daily life. What is the reputation return they're earning from your trust? And what are they doing every single day to deserve it?